Well, welcome to my bedroom. It's not very clean, so hopefully you can't see most of it. I did a question badge yesterday to see if anybody had questions about beauty, and there were a bunch, so I wrote them down so that I could answer them. I was just going to do it in stories, but then I didn't want to have a ton of stories, and I don't know why. I feel like that annoys people. So I thought I would do a live, and whoever catches it, and if not, I will post this on our YouTube because apparently now I'm a YouTuber. But yes, so I'm going to be answering questions that people had about beauty to the best of my ability. I am not a vet. I am not a farrier. Um, I'm just me. So I will be answering them with the best of my knowledge. And yeah, also feel free to ask questions on here as we go along. If you want me to elaborate, just let me know, or if you have new questions. So everyone here probably knows what happened yesterday with Beauty if you're tuning in, but maybe I'll just do a quick recap. She was walking not completely sound for Beauty. I have to say that because all the time people are like, oh, she doesn't look that comfortable in the videos, but it's comfortable for her. The farrier came and we took off her shoes, and so she has a pad on her shoe, which means that we can't really see her hoof unless the farrier's here. We can only see the front of the hoof, which looked fine, but we can't see underneath it because of the major support pad that she has, and she has an 8% incline on the back of her shoe that's metal. So I ain't seeing anything in there. But we took it off, and that is when we saw the hole, and we dug a little deeper into it and saw that it was very close to the coffin bone, very large, and a good amount of detachment, which is when we had the vet come over and he x-rayed it. Luckily, there's still a little bit of hoof there, and the frog is also supporting a lot of the coffin bone, but it is pretty dire, and yes, so our biggest concern is that her coffin bone is going to come through her hoof. And it's not necessarily an if right now, it's a when. And the next steps are a venogram that's happening next week, which I will dive into a bit more about what the venogram is. We've already done it, so I'm more educated on that than other things. But yes, let me start with the first question. The first question is, does she have any rotation in her coffin bone? And the answer is yes. She has some of the worst x-rays on both of her front hooves that our vet or farrier have ever seen. We refer to her as the medical journal because it's just stuff that they've never seen. Most of these cases, Beauty would have been put down a very long time ago because of this. And I'm going to share the x-ray. Her original x-ray is this one, once we got the hoof back on. So once again, I'm not a farrier. I'm probably going to butcher this, but as you can see, there's extreme rotation in her coffin bone. That angle of the bottom of the bone should not be like that. It should be way more level. It's almost like she's on her tippy toes there with how rotated it is. And if you look at the tip where the nails are, you can see that it's been completely broken off in the front. And that has happened from repeated concussion of the coffin bone, which I will get into because people wanted me to explain kind of how this happens. But I thought the visual would help you guys to see the severity of the situation. And this x-ray was taken in, I think, December of last year. I can look it up, but it was last winter. This was right when we started working with her shoes. As you can see, there's no heel in this one because we hadn't gotten to that point yet. Right now we were just trying to have her build up some sole. So the tip of the bone, that will never get better in terms of you can't regrow a bone. This isn't Harry Potter, so that would never get better. It was more that we were trying to make the the angle of the rotation become more level and give her more sole support. So I think I have another one that I can try to show you. Oh, actually it's the venogram. So I'll get into that later. So the answer is yes, she does have rotation in her coffin bone, and it's extremely severe. And that is what we were slowly working on. The way that we were working on it was more tilting her heel back because her coffin bone was so high. So there was going to be a very slow trying to get the back of that coffin bone down. Which I'm sure you're like, well, then why is she in high heels now? The reason why she's in high heels now is we did get the rotation down a good amount, but she started developing abscesses. She's always had abscesses in her hooves. I was just looking at the original picture of her hoof and I forgot to screen cap it, and I'm not going to be going through my camera roll to last year because that will take forever. So maybe I'll share that after this. But she started getting really bad abscesses, which is what caused this hole. And she was on stall rest when she was getting these abscesses, which, most people that ride notice abscesses usually from trauma, or there's usually a root cause that caused the abscesses. So we were pretty perplexed as to why she was getting them essentially on stall rest. And the answer is because her hoof was rotting and there was gas chambers happening and exploding in there, and that's what caused it. So that is when we did the original venogram, which I'll share a photo of right now to explain better. But because we were concerned that there was not enough blood supply getting to the bottom of the hoof, which is why it was dying. So a venogram, quickly, is we inject a dye into her nerves and her blood supply down in her hoof, and then we x-ray it to see what they're supposed to look like. And I have that photo. So here we go. This is what a venogram looks like. So as you can see, the blood vessels are there. She doesn't have her shoe on in this photo because we wanted to do it, we wanted to get a better view. But those lines, those veins are supposed to go all the way around the bottom of the foot. Not that intensely, but there's usually one very strong line that goes across. You can kind of see a faint one in the front of her hoof and right in front of her coffin bone. And that faint one is supposed to go all the way around the bottom. And clearly hers are compromised. And so the goal of the healed boot was to lift the pressure on her ankle and kind of tilt her hoof down so that the blood would flow more easily, because that was getting compressed at her ankle there. So that was our solution or our temporary fix for trying to get blood to her hoof. In some ways, we won't know if it worked. Here, let me take this off. We won't know if it really worked until we do the next venogram to see how the blood supply is going. But in some ways, it might have worked because there were not a ton of abscesses down there, but it just might not be enough. That's why we're kind of in a holding pattern right now until the venogram, because either it will tell us that there's still no blood supply and there's nothing we can do, or maybe it did improve and maybe a miracle will happen. Because right now our issue is that the hoof wall is dying because it's not getting enough blood, we think, and we can't fix that. We can't stop a hoof from dying with what we're doing. We can't stop it unless the blood supply is flowing there, and then we can. How old is she? That is one of the questions on here too. She is 19. We got her when she was 18, and that was last November. We saved her in October, so it's almost her 1 year, and she got here in November. Okay, next question, so that this doesn't take an hour long. What is the root cause of her bad hooves? So Beauty was an Amish plow horse. She has scars on her chest from the plow, which is why we know, and she had Amish shoes on, which is crazy, but she did. And so that's how we know that she was Amish. We picked her up in Oklahoma. I have absolutely no idea where she came from before then, but she was a plow horse, and they have very intense, hard lives. Beauty's foundering started when she was working extreme amounts on hard ground. And what happened is her coffin bone, as you saw in those x-rays, and, the hoof surrounds it. And with repeated hard work on hard surfaces, it kind of concusses against each other. And the concussion causes the area to swell. And then once the concussion stops, it shrinks up again, and then it leaves a gap that just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's why the front of her coffin bone in the x-ray, you can see it's like broken bone, and it's from that repeated hitting. That alone is enough to cause a lot of damage. And then to top it all off, to make Beauty even harder of a case, she developed Cushing's disease, which is very common in older horses. And Cushing's is an overproduction of cortisol, which causes the body to hyperdo things, and it's really bad for horses with foundering. So we are maintaining that with a pill for her Cushing's, but she probably went 5 years without that being addressed or handled. And that's probably why the Amish got rid of her, honestly. I think that it caused her not to be able to work nearly the way that she was before, because her body was attacking itself internally. And that's what caused her foundering to go from really bad to untreatable, honestly. We've been trying to treat it, but it's more of a Band-Aid, and just trying to give her time in a happy place. Is there a treatment for the holes in her front hooves? So that depends on blood supply, right? So we need to figure out if she's getting blood supply there, and that will change. Right now, we pack her hoof with medicated putty, basically, to make sure that no diseases start building up in there, and also to just add a little, cushion in there so that the hole doesn't just get bigger. It's just something to fill it. And then we put a padded shoe on top of it with a huge frog support to help hold up the frog. And then we nail on, I did none of this. Sorry, the farrier nails on the shoe that has the heel. So she is very much protected from the ground and keeping it all together. How old is she? How tall is she, and what breed? She is 19 years old. We got her when she was 18. She is around 16 hands. She's pretty small for a draft, and she's a Percheron. And so Percherons are drafts. She's kind of like a mini draft. Her and Belle are very similar in size and all of that. So she's really cute. She's really beautiful. She's got this big butt that was from plowing, and she's very muscular now, and she's got a very shiny coat, very long mane, very long forelock. She's beautiful. Who is her best friend at the farm? That would be Mabel, the donkey. They are an unusual pair, I would say. I was not expecting them. Beauty's a very stoic, collected. You have to work for her affection. She now loves us so much, but she did not want human affection at first, which is pretty common with Amish horses because they've never had it. But she didn't really like any of the other horses except for Hubble. Hubble imprinted on her basically and wouldn't leave her alone, and so she finally was like, okay, this guy's fine. But Mabel and her just like to hang out together. Mabel doesn't like animals. She would rather just live inside with a human, but she's okay with Beauty. So they hang out. If you watch her stories, they're usually in the same stall together, and they eat breakfast and dinner together. And yeah, they're great buds. Are her soundness problems a result of poor management in the past, and were they avoidable? So yeah, I would honestly say yes. If she didn't have the repeated concussions from the extreme work, that would have helped a lot. And the Amish obviously don't do blood work tests to see if she has Cushing's, and I don't think she developed that until later in life anyways. But yes, if she had not been getting work to the bone and had a proper veterinary care to test for Cushing's, she would be totally fine today for sure. Can her hooves ever be completely healthy? No, I mean completely healthy. Obviously not. The damage done to her coffin bone is irreversible. All we can try to do is make it a little bit better with rotation. That's our least of our concerns right now. The biggest concern right now is to make sure that her hoof wall, to try to keep it from dying. So no. Long story short, yes, she could live a much longer life than we think she's going to right now if her hoof wall is healthy, but no, she could never be completely healthy. She could never be ridden again. She has irreversible damage to her coffin bone. Sorry, my screen keeps going black. That's why I keep touching it. Is there an estimated timeline? No. Even once we get the venogram, there is no timeline. It's just a guessing game. If my vet were to tell you, or if I were to tell you, Beauty's going to tell us when it's time. She's going to be good until she's not, and we're just going to have to look for the signs. I think they're going to be pretty evident, and just make sure that her, right now she's getting a ton of treats. And that's the other thing is, after the venogram, which we're pretty sure is going to tell us that there is no blood flow to her bottom of her hoof, we have made the decision to stop all the protocols that we put her on to try to elongate her life, and that has been stall rest and limited grass and limited sugar and specialized food. And I think once we have visual proof that the blood supply is no longer going to the bottom of the hoof, we are just going to let her live her best life, getting fat, eating all the grass, being out all the time, because she's going to pass away no matter what. And I would rather have her being a horse than being in a hospital. So that is what I've decided. I'm sure some people will disagree with it, but that is what I've decided if the venogram comes back how we think it will. Okay, here is the white stuff he digs / carves out like fingernails. Yes, it is made of keratin. So, which I'm pretty sure is what your fingernails are made of. That's definitely what your hair is made of. I'm pretty sure that's what your fingernails are made of. But that's why when they put the shoe on and it burns, it smells like burnt hair. I weirdly like it. I don't know if everybody likes that smell. But yes, and that's why it kind of continues to regrow, and I'm sure a farrier would give a better answer as to what everything's made up of. But yeah. How are you handling this? I haven't really, I don't know yet. With Oscar, I was prepared because he was so clearly deteriorating in front of us and his time was so clearly coming to an end. With Beauty, if it had been 2 months ago when she was hobbling around, I would have been way more ready than how I am now, because she looks so good and she's walking normally and she's happy, and I don't know how I'm going to react, honestly. I think it's going to be really hard. Oscar was hard, but I think Beauty is going to be way, way harder because I've put a lot of time and energy. And, I don't want to say her obituary right now, but I will always be so grateful for her because she is what strengthened our team so much. She's the reason I have such an incredible relationship with my farrier and my vet. Josh and Joey are my guys, and Beauty is what brought us all together, and I now feel like there's nothing we can't conquer. There's no horse that's too far gone. There's no hoof that looks too scary because of Beauty. So yeah, that was the last question. So if anybody has any questions on here, I'd be happy to answer, but I decided to do this live because I didn't want to fill everyone's stories with me. So I'm going to upload this to YouTube with all the answers to the Beauty questions. But yeah, the energy has definitely changed in the barn. We all kind of it's weird because she's so healthy and looks so good that it's hard to look at her like this. But I think in a lot of ways that's really good. Um, when I was going through the photos to look for her original hoof X-rays. Obviously that time period was when she came here, and there's a lot of photos of her in that condition, and it's night and day compared to how she is now. So, they all teach you a lesson, and I think, the lesson for me with beauty is I'm going to look back and be so grateful that this time she felt so good and she was out in the field and not crippling lame, but it's also very hard to see a horse that looks healthy on the outside who's, kind of rotting internally. So, yeah, that's not a very uplifting end. So if anybody has any questions, I think, we're going to be getting a lot more. I'll try to share a lot more of her in these coming months. I will definitely share the next venogram, like I did on here just now, her original one. That's going to happen next week. Next week is a big week here. There's going to be a lot of surgeries, so it should be interesting. There's a surgeon coming with our vet, and yeah, there's not a lot to say except for we're pretty devastated. I think it's also really hard too because our farrier, our vet obviously loves her so much and has put so much into her, but this is like our farrier's special case. He had me laughing yesterday though, because we're like his circus clients is how I put it. Most farriers don't have horses like Beauty that they're doing unless I think they're part of a hospital or something like that. But he was saying, how much he loves working on our horses and how, it's so unique and different and kind of keeps him on his toes. And then he said, but another rescue reached out to me in Richmond, Vermont, and I said no within seconds because I'm only allowed to have one circus at a time, and that made me laugh because we are his circus right now. But yeah, now I'm just talking on a rampage in my bedroom. So does anyone have any questions? If not, I'll probably sign off and I will upload this to YouTube with all the answers. For anyone that is just joining now, I just answered all of Beauty's questions that people had sent me on Instagram. And I included some of her original x-rays in my answers and her original venogram. So I will upload this. Yesterday's upload didn't go so well. The voice and video didn't really match up, but I am no YouTube star. I have no idea what I'm doing on YouTube, but I am going to share it anyways. We might have a new intake soon. A local Vermonters seized some minis from a very, 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 very bad home. And one of them might be coming here. So I will keep you updated about that. And I just got some Emmett photos from quarantine. He's getting a bath, so I will upload those. Maybe I'll show you guys right now. Just a quick one since you guys are on here. Look at him. He's so cute. So he's going to be coming here. I think I have another one. Here's his body. He's still very skinny, but he's very cute. So yeah, I will share those on my story. That's about it here. So I'm going to sign off, unless you have a question. He is such a good boy. The quarantine loves him. He has had a 102 temp the past couple of days, which has had us a bit worried. So I can't have another loss right now. So I'm hoping that he pulls through, but he's looking pretty good. Rain is perfect. She's doing really well. She's just gaining weight. Mama and Baby, who I have not named yet, but I'm going to look over all of your guys' suggestions. They're doing really well. And then Sapphire in Oklahoma is also not doing great, but still holding in there. So I will update you guys there. And Scout in Texas. It's doing well. He's just getting stronger and stronger. Walter, and Jesus, we have a ton. Walter in Kansas is doing well. He's gaining weight, and he's going to be going to one of our partner rescues in Maryland. It's a specialized draft rescue, so he will be going there. So I'll post those updates. And then Pi is just staying fat in quarantine. She's looking for a home if anyone's interested. Oh, thank you. We feel so grateful for Beauty. She is one of my absolute favorites. So thank you so much. She's a sweet girl. Yeah, okay, I'm going to sign off and post this so that people can actually get the answers if they just tuned in. So I will post the Emmett photos on my story next. Thanks, guys.